Welcome to the show, All Things Writing. I am your host, Brian the Writer. Let me take you on a journey through my writing life and introduce you to some of the amazing talent that exists in the writing world. Whether you are looking for a little advice or just to catch an interesting interview, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All Things Writing starts now. Good day to you all. Welcome to All Things Writing. I'm your host, Brian the Writer. Today, I want to talk about something that came up over the last weekend. I was at Horror on Main. By the way, Horror on Main, great show for those of you who missed it. It was up in Maryland. All the best that the local horror writing community or horror community has to offer. There are writers, there are people that do props, there are people that do different types of production elements that they're involved in. I got to participate in a screaming competition. You can see that video in my list of videos. See me walk like a zombie, and talk like a zombie. Okay, so the thing I wanted to come up with, or the thing I want to talk about today, is a person came up and. We get this sometimes when we're sitting there at the table talking about our books. We'll get people come up and say, well, I could write a book, or I am writing a book, and that's great. If you're writing a book, fantastic. I'm happy for you. However, they asked for some advice, which we and my fellow table mate gave them some advice, which was promptly dismissed. And they said, oh, you don't understand. I'm doing all my research. Okay. What we particularly picked up on was this idea, if you are writing a novel, or any kind of story for that matter, you need to be careful, especially if you're a new writer. New writers tend to do this thing that I call it the Great American Novel Syndrome. They try to write a novel with 12 different main characters from 6 different viewpoints, and it's always it's a horror, sci-fi, gay romance novel with Western elements in it. What? I always am cautious whenever somebody says, well, it doesn't fit neatly in one genre. The fact of the matter is most books don't fit neatly in one genre or another. It leaks over into other categories. For example, I write horror, but what does it truly mean? Honestly, you could slice it out and say, well, I write horror, but it is paranormal thriller, or you could say that it's supernatural thriller, or a dark comedy, or it depends on how you want to really slice the apple. I use horror as a really, really big umbrella. I don't like to say, I don't like to get too specific, because when you get really specific, you put yourself in a position where you kind of have to defend multiple angles, and plus it makes it really hard when you go to Amazon to put everything in. Because people who are looking for horror novels are going to be looking for certain elements. People who go to look for romance novels look for certain elements. People who go and look for other types of mysteries and whatnot, they are looking for very specific elements that in that novel that speak to what they're doing. The other thing that sort of caught my attention with this person is they had something like 12 different main characters, and one was like a time-traveling sci-fi detective. I'm not exactly sure. Points of view. When you're writing your manuscript and you have a certain point of view that you're working with. Now, there are times when you're going to go a different point of view per chapter. Well, that's okay, as long as you are making it absolutely clear that's what you're doing, and you're not doing it with too many characters, because you're going to confuse your reader. There's no way to keep all of those different points of view straight. Only one point of view per chapter, and if you're going to change, you have to make it absolutely clear you are changing points of view. This is all to say that if you are a new writer somebody who's just starting out, be wary of trying to inculcate your story with so many different points of view and so many different characters that it gets confusing and it overwhelms your reader. You don't want to do that. Um, just be clear on how many you start out with and what your end goal is. I, for example, really only when I'm thinking of a story to write, when I have a kernel of an idea, I start out with a character, the main character, the main character. There are going to be other characters that are sort of main. They're part of that person's life, but they're not the main character. Um, that way, I have settled my mind on who I have, but then I also think of where I want them. So you think of it this way: here's your main character. Here's where you want them to be at that big, your rise in tension when you hit that very very top of that um, roller coaster hill. I'll put it up on the screen so you see what I'm talking about. When you hit that top rising tension, I want to know where they're going to be. Um, Now, interestingly enough, when you go from there, I also kind of know how I want it resolved in the end. If you were to ask me what changes between the formation of the character and that end point, interestingly enough, the that rising tension to resolution, or that crescendo really, and that point where everything's resolved, that's the part that changes the most for me, because I kind of know how I want to get there before I start writing. I kind of know my main character. I'm not a big outliner. Some people are. And some people need that just to keep the whole story straight. And I don't do that. But I also don't write. I don't write so many characters that I need to manage them. Well, this goes back to my conversation I had with this new writer. Um, know what you're getting into when you're writing. Writing is important. If you're going to write, if you have that creative bend, set aside and dedicate time every day to your writing process. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to get 2,000 words done that day, but set aside a certain amount of time. I actually use this. This is a 1 hour timer, sand dial, sand timer. And I use it because I can flip it over and it'll tell me when an hour has elapsed. I know at a bare minimum I've done an hour's worth of work on my work in progress. Now, on weekends and when I'm on vacation or whatever, I get more work than that done, but at least I know I've put that effort into it every single day. Maybe start with 15 minutes, maybe start with a half an hour, but you need to dedicate that time to the process. Um, when you sit down, do a character sheet for your main character so you understand who that main character truly is. If you find yourself developing multiple character sheets for multiple main characters, be careful. You're overcomplicating the story. Overcomplication, I think, is the number one thing that kills a lot of new writers, because they write themselves so far into a corner they have no idea where to go. Um, anyway, that's the random tip of the week, I guess, that just sort of popped into my head from Huron, Maine. By the way, definitely check out my other appearances as they come up. I will be at the Snacktown Street Fair in Hanover next weekend, and you can come out there and have some lovely food and hang out with me. That would be cool. Anyway, that's about all I have to say on this topic. I wanted to share that little experience with you all. Remember, before you start writing that story, have an idea of where you're going to go with it, and don't overcomplicate it. I'm not saying you have to necessarily write out a very, very in-depth outline, but you do have to at least know who your main character is and where you want that main character to go. Character sheets can really help you with that. Okay, that's it for all things writing for today. A short little video, just a random thought that popped into my head. Again, highly consider going out and get one of these. You can buy them on Amazon. They're fantastic. It's 1 hour of time, and the great thing is, if you wanted to pause your timer, physics, gravity. It all works. It's a great thing. Okay. That's enough for me today. You guys have a great day. Get back to writing, please. I'm done with my writing for the day, but you, please, get back to writing. All right. From All Things Writing, this is Brian the Writer, signing off. This has been another amazing episode of All Things Writing. If you heard something that got your wheels spinning, check out the links in the show notes. Also, please follow the show and remember to leave those reviews. Those simple acts of kindness mean the world to us. Hop on over to briannowak.com, and that is Brian with a Y, and check out my latest novels. I'm on Amazon or wherever you buy your ebooks. And as a reminder, the music you heard on the show today was used under license from the artist Ryan Ancona. Thanks for listening to the show and have a blessed day.